Welcome back to another feature from the Knife Box channel. We will be discussing the most iconic, most attractive, and flat out best knife zero tolerance ever made, the 777. It was the Blade Show overall knife of the year. The 777 is an in-house design by Kai's Jim McNair. The 777 would still rival many of today's high-end customs and high-end production levels in its elegance and complexity. The composite blade is composed of Devon Thomas herringbone Damascus, which produces a very strong spine. Then fused with a thin layer of copper, a Vanex 35 blade, considered one of the most high-tech steels. Vanex 35 is now discontinued by Bowler, and it has been replaced with other more modern versions. Best known for its corrosion resistance, being a nitrogen-based steel similar to the modern Nitro V. It contains very little carbon, hence the stainlessness, while still actually surprisingly holding an edge for quite a while. And it still actually has some pretty decent toughness resistance as well. And some say it's also quite easy to resharpen. Sounds like the perfect steel to me. The flipper not only looks designed to the handle, but it flips great as well. It's got a great detent release feel on stainless steel detent ball and stainless steel KVT bearings. Up next, let's talk about the 3D milled handle. It's sculpted from aerospace grade carbon fiber, and you can tell by the lack of voids that's actually quite high quality. Just like the blade, the handle has quite a few more layers of complexity, and I'm going to give you 5 examples that I noticed right off the bat. First, the subframe lock. It's a milled textured piece of titanium with an open window so you can see inside the mixture of the blade steels. The subframe lock means that the lock bar is mounted inside the scale independently. Second, the lock bar includes an adjustable steel insert, meaning you can actually change the lockup on the knife or just service it and replace it altogether. Third, an impressive level of milling continues with the 3D milled BACKSPACER that's got open windows. And the BACKSPACER continues with the same style of milling as you'll find on this really unique deep carry 3D milled pocket clip. Fourth, although being almost 9 inches overall, the blend and complexity of materials together, it still achieves an astounding 4.2 ounces, which is an amazing achievement for a knife of this size. And fifth, it has an amazing hallmark drop shut action, typical for a ZT using KVT bearings. To wrap up, I've owned this guy for a few years, and I've carried it, and I still carry it today because I really enjoy it. It is actually one of my 3 main Grail knives. I knew you would ask which ones they are, so here's the other 2. But even if I don't acquire the other 2 at some point, I'm still satisfied because I acquired this one. It's bold, innovative, and it's way ahead of its time. And it's a masterpiece. They don't call it the unicorn for no reason. From ZT Knives, I still say this is the absolute greatest knife they've ever made. And it's subjective, but this is my video. But let's break down the knife as a knife. It's got a great blade for cutting as far as the profile with the sheep's foot. It's got great steel setup. Its innovative features, the use of a subframe lock, and even the adjustable lock geometry, the lightweight construction, and the complexity and simplicity of the whole thing put together. And it's a true limited edition and something that will not be replicated again. So let's get to the tabletop and see this thing in action. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Knife Box channel. So tonight we got a really special knife to discuss. We're going to discuss the iconic zero tolerance 777 Damascus. And one word comes to mind when I look at this knife. The word grail keeps getting thrown around.
You have chosen wisely.
And it's a word that people throw around loosely when they collect knives or watches or anything. But I think it came out kind of appropriate when applying it to this knife. Now, what is Grail to me? Grail is kind of a knife that I've been chasing for a really long time. Something that started at the root of my collecting, and perhaps, over the years I've seen them here and there, and finally somehow, bam, I get one. And that's kind of the whole thing about this one. I kind of acquired it by accident. I was actually purchasing this one right here from a gentleman, and he ended up actually having this one as well.
Oh my God! Wow!
So kind of ran into it by accident, jumped on it. He had two. He was gonna sell one of them, so I took it.
Oh my God!
And I took this one as well. So it's the iconic 777. Now, why is this knife so infamous or so iconic? Well, it went through a few setbacks. First, in the construction of the thing. So originally the steel was kind of a big deal. Now, as you can see, there's two different colors here because there's two different steels. And this is something that zero tolerance and Kershaw knives do quite often. So with this one, the challenge was they were going to use herringbone Damascus from Devin Thomas. I actually brought another zero tolerance with the same stuff, kind of used later. Just a really nice, pretty steel. And with this herringbone Damascus, they were going to go ahead and use their kind of signature steel fusion process using copper to fuse two different steels. So it had to be something that could handle this heat or whatever, however they used this fusion, whatever this process was to fuse these two steels. So the carbon steel in Damascus was no problem. So the original plan was to use Bowler's N36, which was a steel that was a little bit softer in composition. And the problem with that is that this was supposed to be a really high-end, like one of their factory customs, something that shows off their capabilities. So then they decided to go with something a little bit more high performance, since N36 kind of tests low on the Rockwell scale, kind of soft. So they went to M390, but when they tried to fuse M390 with this, then they noticed that it started bluing. So that would mean that they would have to black DLC the bottom, and hence there wouldn't be a lot of contrast. So eventually they went to Vanex 75. Vanex 75, as soon as they decided to go in and buy it, it got discontinued and turned into Vanex 35, which is kind of the same thing, just renamed, and maybe a few different upgrades over the years. Now Vanex 35 is actually discontinued. But you can see on this particular knife, it was used right there. So yeah, the 777 had some advantages in using these two different steels. First, you had this high carbon content Damascus blade, and then you had this nice, really high corrosion resistant blade steel, where basically the carbon's been replaced by nitrogen to give it its hardness. And it also has a whole lot of chromium, so again, just a really super high-tech steel. And then after that, there was the whole debacle with the Matrix, the Microtech that came out, which looked pretty much identical to this. As a matter of fact, if you see these, there's a few different versions. There's the satin version, there's the black wash version or stone wash, there's the Damascus, and there's also the black DLC, which actually that one used to be mine. That was my first 777 that I acquired, which I sold to a buddy on Facebook. And when I acquired this, I just didn't have the need to have two. But anyways, that's kind of the whole appeal with this knife and the whole long history. So let's show what kind of box and the packaging that it came with. You will get this really nice, cool signature ZT pouch. What's really cool is this one comes with a green colored one. That's a factory custom thing. Most of the other ZT pouches on a standard one will have a blue logo. And of course you had this bubble wrap as you do in any other ZT, and it has a little thing that I actually added after the fact. Here's the box. You can see here for the 0777. That's the old school factory custom box. Honestly, yeah, it sucks. I had to tape it. Honestly, guys, it wasn't a really great box, considering that their later factory customs came out with some much bigger, more padded boxes and such, and big certificate of authenticity. Surprisingly, the 777 did not come with any of that stuff. So let's do some size comparisons. Here, let's bring out Spyderco PM2. Let's bring out the Shirogorov F95. That's a really good size comparison. So it's kind of in a nice size bracket. Let's bring out the Holt Spectre. Something I haven't actually carried or brought out in a while, but love that knife. Very, very nice. You can see it kind of dwarfs it. Let's bring out an XM18 3.5 inch. Not a slouch of a knife, and the handles are pretty identical, but you can see how much more blade you get with the 777. How about let's bring out something a little bit more beefy here, and let's bring out the 8020, the Shark Lock. Another very comparable sized knife. Let's bring the ZT0454, another factory custom, just for size comparison here. A bit longer actually. And then just for the hell of it, let's bring out the little guy, the ZT0450. Almost said 0454, but it's actually, this is the ZT0450 Damascus. So I kind of wanted to bring this one out because rumor goes these two knives are years apart in release, but they're actually from the same billet of stuff. The Devin Thomas Damascus, which is pretty cool. Very nice knives. I miss the ZT old heyday. How about you guys?
Look at me. Come back. Come back to me.
And one last size comparison that I think would be really relevant, that most people are familiar with, the large and small Sebenza 21. So there you have it. That's going to be your size comparisons. So what about this knife is going to make it a permanent keeper in my collection? For those of you that already know about this knife, it's kind of obvious, really. It's just absolutely lovely. Full of features, really nice little hints of subtle details if you're really looking for them. Just a really nicely built knife overall. Some of the things I'd like to highlight about it, I started collecting knives around 2012, 2013, and this is kind of my era because that's when this knife finally got released. As a matter of fact, it got 2011 Blade Show Knife of the Year, but it didn't really get out to the public since about 2012, I think is when it did. It's kind of known as
unicorn.
What's a unicorn?
Fable creature. The horse with the horn, impossible to capture.
Because There was about 500 of these supposed to be produced, but from what people say, there's actually less than that. They kind of cut production early because they overstepped their bounds with the pricing and charged too little, and decided that they were going to go with full M390 blades later on. Hence the other versions, which are kind of exclusive versions, kind of from all over. Really kind of amazed at how well ZT did with this knife overall. And it's going to be a collector. It's going to be sought after forever. It's just part of knife history because it was just kind of that popular. And people were anticipating this, guys, from like 2008 or 9 all the way till about 2012 when it actually hit the streets. So yeah, you know, long anticipation pissed some people off. Some people got really excited. They sold out fast, and that was that. Another last thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that this knife is kind of in a weird category. It's considered a factory custom by Zero Tolerance knife, but is it really a custom, or is it a production knife? Or is it something else, some kind of weird blend of mid-tech or limited production? What is it exactly? I'm gonna say no matter what it is, it's definitely rivals pretty much anything in complexity, quality, and construction, and overall just an impressive piece. Hope you guys like this video. Hope you guys like the discussion on the 777. Please make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, leave comments down below as I try to reply to all of them. And in case you guys wanted me to do the wrist shot today, we are wearing the Patty Monster. It's got a strap code bracelet on it. Very nice, very comfortable watch. We'll do a review on this guy later. And that'll about do it. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll catch you all on the next one.